Good morning. Good morning to all of you. And of course, this is just an update on the income support program. Of course, you are aware that we did launch the income support program on September 11th this year. And of course, we are targeting providing support to approximately 5,000 persons who will be receiving 1,500 each. To date, I want to report that we have 2,952 persons who have applied, and by mid-month we will be making payments to 1,223 persons. So these individuals have been processed, and they have been verified by the NIC that these persons are qualified to receive the support. To inform you that from the ancillary district, we have 278 persons have applied. Canries, 48 persons have applied. Castries, 1,214. Of course, the larger part of the population is in Castries. Strozel, 84 persons have applied. Dennery, 141 persons. Grosley, 384 persons have applied. Labrie, 109. Meekwood, 219. Soufrière, 195. Vieux-Fort, 290 persons. Most of those persons have accepted to be paid via check. 1,123 persons asked to pay them by check. Bank deposit, persons asked to deposit there about 1,124 persons. The monies will be deposited in the bank account, and approximately 705 persons have requested that the monies go to the credit union account. So all in all, we are moving ahead with the income support, and persons would be extremely happy to know that by mid-December, the first tranche of 1,200 persons will receive their payment. You would observe that there's been by now we would expect to have more persons applying. Some of the other our people may find that the process of filling in the form is intimidating, and therefore we will embark in terms of having a tongue crier to go around to encourage persons to apply. We're talking about persons in the informal sector. We have asked our social transformation officers. We have 10 social transformation officers. They will be heading to the constituency offices, all constituency offices of parliamentarians, to speak to the persons working there, to empower them to engage persons who they can guide persons in applying. We will involve all permanent secretaries and heads of department and other civil servants to empower them to engage persons, because persons would know someone who should apply and have not applied. And of course, we have asked the bank, the Caribbean Development Bank, to increase our communication vote. They have allowed us to use $10,000 for a more aggressive campaign. So we're encouraging persons to apply and to reach out, use your kids at home, use the laptop that we have given you, get online, and let us move this forward. The resources are there to benefit persons who have not received, and therefore we want them to take advantage of the goodness of the Prime Minister this time. Yes. Any questions, sir?
What's the status of the juvenile rehabilitation center? What is supposed to replace the boys training center? Where are we with that?
Okay, we've had, since Cabinet has set up approved the technical committee. There've been one important meeting with the architect, and I've received report that it was very productive. Like I've said before, we are not proceeding just on a limb by the ministry itself to decide what a new juvenile center should be. We have visited a few juvenile centers around the region, and we are aware that persons do have issues, or you hear the challenges they have, and therefore we do not just want to copy what somebody else, but we want to do the best for our people, and therefore all that technical committee is very broad, and all critical stakeholders are represented, and therefore are contributing in terms of the discussion to the architect who is present in terms of solving the problem of a new juvenile center, both in terms of its design as they put together, the processes and operations, and answering certain questions as it has to do with the legality of a juvenile center. For example, we have to deal with the issues of a detention center, and because we have two sets of wards that we cater for, those who are in conflict with the law as well as those who are there for care and protection. Currently, the design of the Boys Training Center is not good in terms of where those who are in conflict of the law, where they are housed, and those who are in for care and protection, where they are housed, and how they mingle in terms of having one sitting common area and what have you. So the design doesn't lend for having the two. So there's a contamination of the wards in terms of dealing with issues, and we want to separate that. And a design need to speak to that in very specific terms, design and otherwise. Staffing and otherwise. I notice even in Grenada, the staffing complement of the Bacolet Juvenile Center in Grenada is it's a lot more than our staff complement here. Again, we want to ensure that there are no gaps in terms of the processes and the carrying forward. So that work has started. We going to clean the George Charles Secondary School very quickly to maintain it in proper order and do not allow the trees to take over the structure that's there. So that's going to happen as we continue to put our design in brief that will inform the architect what to do in place. This is what is happening as it relates to the juvenile center.
I know they had a review of the management at the TC. There is a new head, right?
Yeah, there should be a new head shortly, and we are looking at the whole structure of the whole juvenile centers. Like I said, I'm concerned that we have approximately 6 free managers in total, 3 assistant managers for Boys Training Center, Transit Home, and the Upton Girls Center. And you wanted to ask if you have 30, if you have just about 30 wards in Grenada, and then you have one manager, why should we have 3 managers for them? So we have to look at how effective and efficient we could be with the resources we have as it relates to taking care of our wards and our juveniles. Yeah?
I have one question, but I'll preface it by saying it comes from a place of my ignorance on the legalities of what I'm about to ask. But in some conversations I've had with certain folks who have come up to me, guys who have previously violated the law, but they have already spent their terms, they have already cleared their charges or whatever they've done. They're still finding it difficult to get legitimate work because sometimes the time of span they would have to wait for it to get cleared off their police record and stuff. It's often a challenge to get back into a legitimate means of being employable. And from what I'm getting from them, they're like, how they expect us to stop going back into crime when they're not able to get, I guess, integrated into the society in a timely fashion. That's what maybe your sentiments on maybe that kind of situation.
Yeah, I think this is a very, very important question that you ask. And it is something that an issue that I personally reflect on, seeing that we need to, integrate persons back into society. All of us must think of it and ask ourselves the question. I personally believe that person deserve second chance, third chance, fourth chance, fifth, 5 chances. That is my philosophy. Sometimes persons who have done a lot more, worse to our society at certain levels, are given extra chances. When we speak of politics, for example, and and we see sometimes the decisions made that affects us. We go back as people, we vote, and we give people a second chance to do better. If somebody have an altercation with the law, I think our society must give an opportunity to the person to feedback. I do not think we should keep persons past hanging over their heads as if they're not able to make a contribution. So yes, but it's something that we must, all of us, must take into consideration and must consider. I think the persons who are employed, both here at the public service as well as in the private sector, must also take that into consideration. When you give persons who have had issues with the law an opportunity, it sends a good signal to persons who are incarcerated that they also have a second chance. They say serve their time and they could get back on with their life. If those who serve their time out there are not getting a second chance, it tells those who are incarcerated that there's no hope for them. And we must not put systems in place to rehabilitate persons, but our society, on another hand, is saying that that's it for you. I don't think we should do this, but it is something that each of us as individuals, because we in a society where persons have the right, to do so. And that is why one of the things that you will see happening shortly, I've asked for support finances, is to build studio apartments for the wards who have come of age and have to leave the Boys Training Center, so that we can provide housing for them in a way that they can get time to settle, as against just throwing them out and they need to go back in the same environment that led them to where they were in the first place. So you'll notice that I did a duplex in Fort-Mager. Around the island, I would look to see how we could build homes for the few wards we have who have spent their time at the Boys Training Center. They've gone to school, they've had issues with the law, but give them an opportunity to get back into society. And I think housing is an area that is needed for persons who really do not have a place to stay. You leave prison and you do not have a place to stay. I understand that we have single mothers and persons who may be a priority to us, because a single mother with a young baby may be a priority than a young man. But at the same time, we need to look at the providing for the young people as well. That's my thought on it. Thank you. And I do not speak for everybody. It's not a policy position of the cabinet. We have not something, but as the minister responsible for equity, social justice and empowerment, I think it is the principal position to hold from a perspective of social justice.
So, ladies and gentlemen, I now present Honorable Richard Frederick, Minister in the Office of the Prime Minister with responsibility for housing and local government. Stage is yours.
A pleasant morning to each and every one of you. I hope all of you have a good week. Christmas is approaching, and I'm hoping it brings good cheer for one and all across the length and breadth of our beautiful island, St. Lucia. As you all may have known, I was out for approximately 3 weeks. I attended a conference in Buenos Aires, Argentina. It was a conference of ministers of housing, ministers from the Caribbean, as well as Latin and South America. There we had discourse as to housing not only being a need, but being a right. And so quite a lot of emphasis was placed on accessing financing for housing. I brought home the point that most of our settlements are in low-lying areas, given the fact that only 10% of our land is flat, whilst 90% is mountainous. That 10% competes for housing development, tourism development, industrial development. And the sad reality is, when the climate change agents hit us, the devastation that is caused can sometimes be disheartening. And so there was a collaborative effort to knock on the doors of those persons, or those countries rather, that are instrumental in causing the climate change. Some of you may know that we emit very, very little carbon into the atmosphere. And it's like, as I put it previously, paying for a sin that you did not commit. We feel the brunt of climate change, but we don't contribute to those hurricanes, earthquakes, sea level rises, etc., that basically cause or reap havoc. And when those things happen, the sad reality is money for restoration expeditiously can never be tapped into. The procedure, as we all agreed, is outdated. We don't want to compromise accountability and transparency, but we echoed the need for a regional organization to be the repository of climate change funds to permit ready access by countries in the region if and when a calamity strikes. The meeting was extremely good, and it ended in a declaration which I had to sign that this will be one of our objectives moving forward. I don't know if you all have ever addressed your minds to about half a mile of the Bad Lil, just half mile of the Bad Lil going down. The consequences would be devastating, and it will have enormous economic consequences. Productivity will be at an all-time low. Everything else will be at an all-time low. We would have to learn to work remotely, and it can be juxtaposed to the impact that COVID had on us. So with all of this in mind, at that meeting, I made the pronouncement that we as small island developing states, our needs need to be met with due speed, because we don't have a reserve of resources to restore the damage that those calamities invariably bring. Yes, and we also asked to adapt, mitigate, all of which you need resources for all of that. So there was a clarion call collectively, and I do believe that the heirs of those persons who are responsible for those climate change funds, they would have heard what our cry was all about. So from Buenos Aires, I proceeded to Rwanda, where I attended a local government conference, a Commonwealth local government conference. I'm sure you all know that the Commonwealth spans some 52 or 53 countries and various organizations, but that local government forum consists of over 100 organizations. I was elected to the board of the Commonwealth Local Government Conference as one of the 2 ministers representing the Caribbean region. I received the support of all of my colleagues that were present from Antigua, the Bahamas, Jamaica, Trinidad, Belize, and everywhere else. I had to deliver an address, and I do know that when I delivered that address, they were of the view that this minister knows his onions, so to speak. And so I got unanimous support from the Caribbean region to represent the Caribbean. One of the 2 ministers, Jamaica is the other, on that board. They control basically everything that happens, and our next meeting is in the Pacific, Samoa, sometime early next year. As it relates to housing, I'm pleased to inform you, and I do have the DCA application with me, the acknowledgement slip from DCA. On the 30th of November, all plans for 5 multi-residential units in Casaba had been submitted to the DCA. So on November 30th, we submitted those 5 drawings. those drawings, for 5 structures, each of which will hold 15 families to be constructed in Casaba. God willing, as long as the plans are approved, within this December month, we will start construction in earnest come January 2024. Sure. No, that's basic. I've given you news for a whole week there.
Related to the announcement you just made.
Which one?
The announcement of the apartments.
Yeah.
The apartment complex.
Yes.
So who's funding it? How is it? Yeah.
Basically, what the central government may do, I know that the Prime Minister is extremely anxious. The Prime Minister has a very soft spot for poor people, and I think that's what gravitated me to him. He is very, very concerned about relieving the poor people of their plight, and in that regard, he has given the undertaking that come what may, we will get the funding to at least kickstart the construction. What we are going to do, as long as we can get the funding to kickstart, those monies will go into a revolving fund so that as we sell, we continue to build in the different constituencies. One will understand that as long as the plans are approved, they are generic plans so that they can be replicated on any other site as long as the site can accommodate 1, 2, 3, or 4, or even 5 of the buildings. So it's a situation where we have had DCA to understand that we can take a plan, and as long as there is site approval, the drawing in its detail would have been approved already, and there would no longer be any need to go into the details of the drawing, but basically to approve the site. So once the first one is out of the way, it will invariably start a mechanism where we can commence construction in the various constituencies at an extremely quick rate.
As it put into the designs, are the bedrooms and stuff varied, or is it gonna be a one, like I say?
No, I think we have 1 and 2 bedrooms. We are trying our utmost. One would understand that the construction of those facilities are contingent upon a study that was executed. We have a 14,000 house deficit now, and you would understand that you target the majority of families, what would suit them at this time. Those in the minority, we can deal with them after. That is not to say they are forgotten, but we try and create an indentation in the needs of the majority as quickly as we possibly can. So that was what our designers had in mind. They looked at the statistics, they looked at the data, and the compilation of the buildings invariably would lend accord to what exists and who are the ones in majority that need housing the most.
You said it was going to be erected in Casaba, right?
Casaba, hopefully from there we go down to Bexar. But, we just want the first, once we have the preliminary, in every development, there would be attendant areas that would need, a rethink, so to speak. And that has been examined, and I can tell you everything is already in place to facilitate whatever increase in traffic that the construction may eventually cause. That will be taken care of. It is something that we have considered. It is in an area that is already developed, as a matter of fact, and I don't think without a private vehicle that would be an impediment to owning a home in that regard. One of the things I want to announce as well, that those homes would be for St. Lucians. And as such, the government has taken the decision not to incorporate the price of the land in the sale of the building. So our St. Lucians would be getting a slice of St. Lucia by paying solely the cost of the building, and the land would basically be part of the package as a discharge of government's social responsibility to the empowerment of our people.
You have a an estimation essentially on the cost of it, the apartments, 1 or 2 bedroom?
I do, but I cannot say with any certainty now, because you'll understand that a lot of prices are subject to supply chain issues. And if you have a situation where some other mad leader in the world decides to start a war and the price of steel skyrockets to about 10 times what it is now, then invariably that would impact on the final product. But ceteris paribus, as we say in Latin, meaning all things being equal, I believe St. Lucians will be in for a good deal at the hands of this government.
Okay. Where are we with local government legislation, the elections that?
Yes, as I speak, the legislation is being put in place, and I do envisage in the next calendar year one would see some movement in that regard. I've always said that even I'm the one as Minister of Local Government in selecting councillors, I don't think that should be done at the expense of the involvement of the persons in the given locality. And it is in that regard you want involvement from the ground level up. You would permit those persons to get involved in electing those persons who will represent them on the local council.
Awards and whatnot. So just your thoughts and sentiments, and how important do you think it is, I guess, to give the youth some sort of gratification for their work, for the continued development of the nation?
I think this year we had a very good program for Youth Awards. We really tried to appeal to the public to make as many attempts at nominating individuals within the community. We had 75 persons nominated. We really want to get that number above 100 and 120 for next year. But all in all, we had a very, very, very packed program on the weekend, highlighting some of the achievements of our young people. We continue to appeal to our young people to join organizations, be part of meaningful organizations that are doing or implementing programs that not just develop themselves, but develop the next generation of young people. And so we are happy as a ministry in terms of where we are. We have employed a number of youth workers throughout the length and breadth of St. Lucia. We are about to employ 2 more. And we are continuing to work with the staff that we have at the ministry to continue to develop the youth of this nation. We are continuing to work on our app, Skill 758. We've had a number of issues with the server. And on Wednesday, we are meeting with all the youth workers on island to make a presentation to them on the upgrades to the server and the upgrades to the app, so that we can send them into the communities to really capture the data on young people in the community, what skills they have, so we can strategically put things in place to ensure that they get some employment.
Some time ago, I had asked you about the National Aquatic Center that's to be built in Boston. But obviously, you would understand that's not the first time that ground has been cleared or ceremony has been hosted for a National Aquatic Center. So what is going to be different this time with you at the helm of that development, and what kind of commitments can you give to it, and it will happen this time?
Well, apart from being a sports journalist for 2 years who spoke about establishing a 50-meter pool, this is the first time we have actually identified the financing for the construction of the 50-meter pool and the 25-meter warmer pool, the National Aquatic Center. Beyond that, the contractor have started all the works in terms of the clearance, and the expectation is come January you'll start seeing the brick and mortar aspect of this program. We are beyond confident that we will be able to finish within a 12 to 24 month span this National Aquatic Center and commence the hosting of regional and international events in swimming right here in St. Lucia. In addition to that, a comprehensive swimming program for all of St. Lucia as well. So this time, as a minister, I think I have gone on record as saying that I will be the minister to establish a 50-meter pool on island. I continue to stick to that. We've seen the commencement, and right now it's about seeing it through. No, we've tweaked the design a lot to accommodate some of the modern developments in sport, in terms of camera angles, in terms of some of the different technologies that have developed in terms of the timing, and so we've made accommodation as well for corporate booths. To try to stimulate some level of economic activities. Also, a little conference center to encourage just the general public to use the facility. So it will be a multi-use facility that we certainly hope will continue to develop our young people and the wider society as we continue to move along.
So I assume it's more than 12 billion this time around the Aquatic Center. Do we have a estimates or anything of that nature?
Well, the estimate would definitely be beyond the 12 million of 2015, considering if you consider inflation, if you consider the legacy project that it is going to be, the change in design that we are definitely looking forward to. And even when we came in and we saw what the 12 million was for, it was really for a swimming pool and just a stance in comparison to what we are going to build as a FINA accepted swimming pool and aquatic center. So at the end of the day, we continue to work with the contractors. We did go through a tender process. The National Lotteries Authority did go for a tender process, and so that is the process we use to actually select a final contractor, and that was done by the NLA in all levels of objectivity.
Is there any added pressure to deliver the project, considering I think the Aquatics Federation, they said they've already submitted bids to host some regional competitions. Is there any added
You see, as a minister of youth development and sport, I don't make decisions under pressure or under or because an affiliation or an organization has decided that this is the proper hosting time for an activity. I look at the total aspect of what we are doing. We look at availability of hotels, we look at availability of facilities, we look at availability of the personnel to execute an activity. And so as an organization, as a Swimming Aquatics Federation, they would be in a position where they would project when they can host an event based on what they've analyzed. And as a government, we have to decide whether or not it's feasible for it to be hosted at a particular time. We work with them very closely based on their timelines, but the final analysis and decision will be made based on what's available in terms of human capital, physical infrastructure, and the availability of the swimming pool for the event being proposed.
Can you give us, I think from the venue inspection that was done yesterday by ICC and Cricket West Indies, sorry.
Well, Cricket West Indies and the International Cricket Council representatives were on island for the weekend, and they visited the Darren Sammy Cricket Grounds, they visited the Groseley Playing Field and the Minder Phillip Park, who will be doing the bulk of the work in terms of the actual players preparing for the event and participating in the event. I can say that from all indications, the Cricket West Indies and ICC personnel, they were very impressed with where we are in terms of our preparation. We made some presentations on the overall design for the upgrade of Darren Sammy and the Minder Phillip Park and Groseley. We also made presentations on the surface, how we're going to deal with the drainage issues on the surface at Darren Sammy. And of course, they're very happy with where St. Lucia is in comparison to where a lot of the other countries are in terms of being prepared to host a global event. In addition to that, Cricket West Indies and the ICC, they visited our hotels, a number of the hotels up north that they will be using for the competition. We're expecting in excess of 120 media, just in terms of media personalities on island for Cricket World Cup. And that does not include the actual individuals that are part of the organizing committee for Cricket West Indies and for the World Cup. And we are not even talking about fan participation from the region and international. So they visited some of our hotels up north, and of course the preliminary indication is that St. Lucia is ready to host this global event. And so we are just waiting to do some touch-ups in terms of the final budget that they have requested in terms of the execution of the marketing, the security, the medical, the health aspect to hosting the event, and the transportation. And we are looking forward to just continuing to develop our facilities to have a successful World Cup.
So just, I guess, moving on from the World Cup, when are we, I guess, at a point in time when we're going to see the transformation of the Darren Sammy Cricket Grounds? I mean, it's a very good grounds as is, but for times usually when there are events and stuff like that, it's usually patch up, let's fix this, let's put that there, this and that. When are we actually going to go beyond?
Well, Cricket World Cup has given us the opportunity to go beyond just the temporary patches, and of course, it has given us the opportunity to be thorough in what we've done. Since I've been minister, we've from time to time, based on the availability of finances, we've done some major upgrades in terms of the look of Darren Sammy. When you walk into the Darren Sammy from the Players Pavilion, you would see some of the works that we've done. We identified a spot for the St. Lucia National Cricket Association. We've established the office area, and so some of the things that needs immediate action is the roofing, the complete roofing of the Darren Sammy, and of course the lighting. And you would appreciate, because of the location, the sea blast, and the fact that since 2007 we've had those places, the construction, we have evaluated some of the needs, including the actual material that we need to deal with rust. And we've already contracted individuals to start the process of the complete transformation of the roof and the surface and some of the other things that we require at the Darren Sammy Cricket Ground. So we will be seeing better toilet facilities, we'll be seeing a better media area, we'll be seeing better roof and even better surface at the Darren Sammy for Cricket World Cup.
Of course, I think we can start off by expressing our delight at St. Lucia once again winning the award for World's Leading Honeymoon Destination. And certainly it shows the quality of the product that we have in St. Lucia. And we were delighted that the Prime Minister happened to be in Dubai at COP28 and received the award on behalf of St. Lucia. We're going to continue to work to ensure that St. Lucia remains one of the premier romance destinations in the world. And certainly there are other areas of our product that we'll continue to work on. And this year, you would recall, we won the award for the Caribbean Leading Destination in nature, and as well as for adventure. So we, in terms of the long-term planning and development, we're looking to invest more through the UBEC program for us to develop more on the diving sector, with a lot of resources in the diving sector. Adventure is really taking off in St. Lucia. We see quite a lot of applications for incentives and concessions for St. Lucians wanting to start off their own experiences. So that's a very good sign. Last week, Monday, and I think the press secretary will be issuing a press release on it sometime this week, we actually sign off on the sale of Mount Pima lands for the establishment of a major resort in that area. And of course, she will provide more details, but it will be a very valuable addition again to the product in St. Lucia, and will become the largest property in St. Lucia as well. So it will be a major development. So, questions?
What does that title do for us in terms of, getting more visitors? When you have that title for 50 occasions, what does that do for St. Lucia and this branding?
Well, it's certainly invaluable when it comes to branding and the recognition of the destination that, we are out there at the top of the list. So when individuals are looking for destinations for honeymoons and even for weddings, once you enter the system, St. Lucia comes to the fore. So keeping St. Lucia up there is really, a vital task. And getting those awards really help us a long way in being in the forefront of the minds of people, wedding planners, even individuals who are planning to get married and want a honeymoon. St. Lucia must always be in their minds. So it helps us. It's of tremendous importance to us to continue those relationships and to receive awards such as this.
You would appreciate that most times locals, this doesn't fall directly in their portfolio, but locals come for our beaches. And I think last week you spoke about developing some ranges for the safety of the beach.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I'm also realizing I'm not carrying out any study
Yeah,
or anything.
yeah.
I realize that our coastal areas are diminishing, especially up by Railway and in some other beaches. It's really starting to diminish. At what point is that going to be maybe become a concern that stretches into your ministry and need to say like, we need to step in to try to
Diminish in terms of the numbers of persons
no,
on.
the coastal, like the sea itself.
Okay,
it's like
yes.
erosion.
Yeah, we have a number of situations like that, not
Yes.
only up north, but throughout. And again, it's all part of the whole climate change, discussion that is going on, that there is evidence. You just look at, for example, Marigot, that I'm very familiar with, La Basse, which is the beach, which has been disappearing. And in fact, we have an investment that will start very soon under the World Bank project. We'll be redoing the Marigot waterfront, as well as we have an investor on the Spit, the La Basse. And we have to build back the beach because the water level seems to be rising. It's either that or the sun is disappearing, but the beach is disappearing, so we need to build back the beach. And in many areas in St. Lucia where you actually see evidence of coastal degradation taking place, and it's part of the broader discussion of how do we mitigate against that kind of, effect. And of course, I don't have to tell you, climate change is a very topical issue. In fact, it's at a time when COP is taking place, and a lot of those issues, the UBEC I spoke about, Unlocking the Blue Economy of the Eastern Caribbean, has provisions for us to do some mitigation work. So you are right.
But since you alluded to it, I also saw some beach vendors were complaining about, they're not receiving, they were not too happy with not seeing enough visitors. Is that a complaint that has reached you? And I will say, when I have seen on Sundays, there are people on Sundays there. Like, is that just how it is cool? But has there been anything that has come to your desk or anything?
Well, it has been brought to my attention, and I've gotten direct communication with some of the vendors. And it's difficult to explain to some of them. The more options that exist now, you find visitors, especially cruise passengers, are able to discriminate more. They can decide they want to leave the ship and to visit in one day 4 or 5 adventure options and never go to a vendor's arcade or go to any place that they have vendors based on what they've chosen for their day's itinerary, which tours they've chosen. And it's both a blessing. We have many options, and therefore we can attract more people to get off the ship. But it's also a curse, because before, with limited option, almost everybody went to the vendor's arcade. There are people that they just drive past the vendor's arcade, they board a bus, and they want to go straight to Soufrière, or they want to go kayaking, or they want to go rafting. So they have multiple options now. So the vendor has to almost, change their whole game plan. They cannot expect almost every cruise passenger to come to the vendor's arcade anymore. In the GPH Government of St. Lucia proposal for the redesigning of the vendor's arcade, it will be designed in a way where cruise passengers who are leaving the ships at La Place Carénage will have to go through the vendor's arcade just as a matter of exit. Almost just like when you land on some airports, you must go through the duty-free before you can exit. So it will be designed in a similar way to ensure that the vendors get exposure. But the reality is that, people get off the ship, they board a catamaran, and they go down the coast. They're not interested in that kind of shopping. And there is also the perception that the 2 free islands they've been to is the same things they sell in St. Lucia. They just change the name from whichever country and they put St. Lucia on it. So people believe there's a sameness in the items that are sold. So they've seen it before. So it's something we have to discuss. We really do. We have to be able to get the vendors getting more exposure to the passengers, and at the same time to get them to sell items that are unique and different. and for people to know that and want to visit them. So we have to give some thought to it.
I know you spoke about us expanding our yachting subsector, but I think recently the Caribbean Security and Safety Net, which is an organization that tracks, I guess, crimes against yachting. In 2022, we had the most violent cases against people in the yachting sector. It was 5. There were others with more reports, but we had the most violent ones. Is that a concern? I know the number is not something to write home about, but it's information that is out there. It's a report that is out there.
Yeah, for us it was a big issue. We had a meeting in Soufrière a couple months ago preparing for the new season, and we did put in place certain plans for us to deal with it this season. We were able to address it towards the ending of the season through the police, and we must say thank you very much to the police and even the local community too, because at the end of the day we found out that the persons involved in a lot of those yacht harassment and crime were not even from the area where it was taking place. They were actually from another part, another community that came down to engage in those unacceptable acts. But we were able to finally bring it under control, but it was towards the ending of the season. But we did put in some plans with the Marine Police, the Soufrière, the SMMA, and the SRDF for us to be able to control some of what happens down on that side. And we're looking forward to a much better year.
Well, on Friday, we got the guilty verdict for Eugene St. Romain in the Volinda Joseph murder case. And this happened 21 years ago. It's a bittersweet judgment for the Department of Gender, because many persons have been calling for justice, and sometimes we say justice delayed is justice denied. However, it took us 21 years to get the verdict on this case, and it is one that we welcome the verdict, in that it came at a time when we were observing the 16th day of activism on gender-based violence. And based on that, we want to remind St. Lucians that this domestic violence issue, gender-based violence and violence against women, these are serious matters where a young child's life was cut short, and by her very father. It is very, very touching. And we want to thank the Department of Justice for having arrived at a conclusion to that case. And it is also a signal for many people in our society that we must continue to respect women. We need to respect our children, and we have to continue to combat this evil act and behavior by our people. We must encourage persons to live in peace, love, and harmony, and let men and women respect each other. Let us respect our children. And with that, I want to encourage St. Lucians to reflect on this decision. It is a challenge for us, but I believe that it is a sign that we cannot give up. There is hope for justice, and there are many other cold cases that we are waiting for the outcome, and let us keep our fingers crossed so that we can get some justice given to those persons out there who have been clamoring for an end to their grieving, and hoping that they will get some kind of satisfaction coming out of the case. So with this, we also launch the promotion on Know Your Rights campaign from the project that is funded by the French government. This project costs to the tune of 600,000 euro, and it will be done over a 2-year period. And together with the ambassador of France, in St. Lucia, we did a press launch where we encourage persons to take the issue of domestic violence very seriously. And this project is actually being implemented by Unite Caribbean Development Advisors in collaboration with the Department of Gender. And we are hoping that during the 2 years, we will achieve some 3 major goals. One, supporting the government in the application of Domestic Violence Act, which was passed on March 8, 2022. Strengthening the capacities of civil society organizations in St. Lucia to reduce domestic violence and gender inequality. And 3, developing inter-actor synergies to reduce domestic violence and gender inequalities in St. Lucia and the Eastern Caribbean. The project undertaken by the French is more or less a pilot project, and if it is successful in St. Lucia, they will extend it to the rest of the OECS states. So we look forward to the publicity, the advocacy, and we really need the support of the media in getting the message across to our St. Lucian people and the wider community. So the 16th day of activism will end on the 10th of December, and there are a number of organizations that are engaged in activities to observe these 16 days. On the 30th of November, the Employers Federation had their 62nd annual general meeting. And many times as Minister of Labor, people are of the view that we are only concerned about the rights of workers, but we also have to pay attention to the employers, because without employers, you do not have workers. Therefore, we encourage the persons who go into business in St. Lucia and try to create employment for persons in St. Lucia. So at this point, I welcome the AGM of the Employers Federation. They have been in existence for a long time, and they are playing a critical role in national development. The employers, too, are also workers. It's not because they employ people that you think they are not working. Their work is to employ, supervise their business. And I'm hoping that with the youth economy, the micro, medium, and small businesses, the community tourism projects, and the 7 crop project in agriculture, which government is contributing tremendously in terms of funds, where people can access these funds to start their own businesses. So that should increase the pool of employers to create employment. Persons will create employment for themselves or for others. And with that, we are hoping to see us reducing the unemployment rate in St. Lucia. Yesterday was the end of Police Week. The police had a number of activities during the week, and one of the activities they had was the boat show that was done by the Marine Unit. They had the display in the harbor. It was a spectacular display, and they did give me my fair share of the display, where when the boat came close to the walkway, that the boat splashed water and wet myself, the commissioner of police, and all the officers that were, and even the media personnel who were there. However, I believe it is one where we need to encourage the police to continue to do the good work that they have been doing. Let us continue to cooperate with the police so that they can keep St. Lucia safe and secure for all of us. And I commend them for celebrating their week, and let us continue to do what is best in the interest of St. Lucians. As you are aware, the police has received quite a bit of support from the government of St. Lucia with regards to getting additional equipment in the form of vehicles. They have gotten motorcycles, they have gotten bicycles. We have increased in terms of the equipment that they need to carry out their duties. And we have done quite a bit of work on most of the police stations. And next year, the Prime Minister has promised that he will do a lot more work with regards to repairs to police stations. And you are fully aware that we are starting the Northern Divisional Headquarters for the police in the north of the island to the tune of $35 million. And we are just about 98% complete in terms of the work for the refurbishment of the Southern Divisional Headquarters. So maybe very early in the new year, our police will go back to their original space in Vieux-Fort, which is a more comfortable environment for them to work. So that is the kind of interest that this government has placed in the interest of the work of the police and national security and safety of our people.
The Immigration Department has, well, they finally transferred to the new location. If you could just speak to that.
Okay, finally, we have completed all the works, all the air quality tests for the department which will house the immigration unit. And within this week and next week, they should be fully in operation in the new location. We had to get new furniture in some cases for them, and we are hoping that, I think they are happy. They have visited the place. They are happy with the environment, and we are hoping to see them increase in terms of the level of productivity, and we see an end to the clamoring of long waits for passports and everything else that people had been crying out in the public. It costs government a bit of money to get that new location, to do the refurbishment, and also new furniture for them to occupy the place. And as soon as they have settled in, we'll invite the media to take a tour and let the St. Lucian public know what we have done for the Immigration Department housing, especially the passport unit.
Just a quick question because I didn't have to.
Last question.
Yeah. Just going back to the judgment and the case. 21 years ago, St. Lucia was a very different place. From that time, we've seen the legislation of the Domestic Violence Act, and we've also seen upgrades to the Forensic Services laboratory. How are you hoping that, with these things on stream, that another young girl in St. Lucia or another family doesn't have to wait 21 years for justice to be, for it to be justice?
Yes, I am of the view that with the improved equipment that the police have to carry out their duties, it will make it a lot, justice should be a lot more swift in obtaining results and outcomes of cases. As you mentioned, the forensic lab is a very important tool in assisting the police in carrying out their duties. And this year, St. Lucia, under the leadership of the Prime Minister, was responsible for COSOD, which is the Council for Social Development in CARICOM. We took on the chairmanship of this entity for 1 year, and it's just about coming to an end. We had a big meeting here not too long ago. And during that period, under the leadership of the Prime Minister, who is the Minister for National Security, we were able to secure a lot of support for the police, especially in the area of training. And therefore, we are confident that in the coming months, we will see our police officers who are fully trained and equipped will handle a lot of cases with some level of diligence, and will do it at a more rapid rate and very scientific in the way that they combat crime. People say long are the days when we fight crime using the little mongoose approach. Now we have to use the science. We have to use technology. And this is one way we have to be able to be ahead of the criminals. We have the issue of drone. We have the issue of security cameras. We have a lot of things that can help. But what is of greatest importance is the cooperation from the general public. if the people in St. Lucia do not support the police, they will not go very far, so that they can get the support of and we want persons in St. Lucia to begin to gain greater confidence in the police, have greater trust in the police. And we encourage the police to do the same, to trust the citizens, so that with that kind of cooperation and collaboration, they will assist the police in fighting crime and keeping St. Lucia safe.